team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here at Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So we jump on here every Wednesday, kind of give you a rundown of what's gone on in the real estate market in the Omaha metro area over the last week. We always start off with a quick tip. So quick tip for today that we're talking about is on our championsrealestateteam.com website. We have our home buyer guide on there. So if you go on our championsrealestateteam.com website, you scroll down here on the right-hand side, click this, you have a buyer and a seller guide. But in the buyer guide, you click that, pull it up. We have our home buyers evaluation checklist form in here. So this is one of those things that obviously it's free, to anybody that wants to access it here. But this is one of those things I give to my buyers, the things that you don't know, what you don't know. So I teach a real estate continuing education class for 3 hours, basically on this form alone. So I can talk 3 hours on it, but just give you guys a quick tip here. But there's a lot of things on here to think about when you're buying a house that you might not think about. So it's one of those good things before you even start looking at houses, kind of run down, get a good idea of what to look for, what to think about. It talks about on here, kind of smoke detectors, all that kind of fun stuff, home inspections. If you're buying an acreage with a well, proximity to power lines, driving around at different times of the day. Because if you're looking at houses in the daytime, you may live, near a shopping center that's got lights on all night. So those type of things, the neighborhood, miscellaneous stuff here. So great resource for you. So jump on championsrealestateteam.com. Just down here on the right-hand side, we have a home buyer guide and the home seller guide. So depending on which side of the coin you're on, obviously got that stuff to check out there. So obviously with our website, check up the most up-to-date houses out there. So with that, let's take a look at what's going on in the real estate market. Let me pull up our graphics that we have here every week. Check it up as it pulls up here. So we got how's the market this week. So we had 458 new listings over the last 7 days. So last week we had about 600. So we're down about 150. There's not really any reason for that, in all honesty. We're coming up closer to, Thanksgiving next week. That's kind of hit or miss as far as listings going live, obviously around the holiday season. I have a listing potentially going live next week. So we're working on getting the photographer and all that kind of stuff set up and things of that sort. But, you have people coming into town that may take that advantage. They have that long weekend to come in and look for houses over the holiday weekend. And sometimes obviously people just spending time with family and friends and stuff that may not be going out, taking a break. So it's kind of hit or miss in regards to that. So new contracts written 319. So that activity's kind of been where it's been at. The last couple of weeks, sold homes, 317 happy new homeowners. So we're still seeing good volatility, good movement in the market. Out there, obviously we had the drop in the new listings, but we had 600 last week. We only, we're still at the same amount of new contracts written. So we're still got some houses coming on, which is great in that regards. But let's take a look at the 30,000 foot view. For those that follow us this video, this 30,000 foot view doesn't usually change a whole lot. So we got 3,125 active listings in the Omaha and Lincoln MLS. So in the Omaha metro area, in that Douglas Sarpy County area, we're about 1,700, almost 1,800 homes. And then the existing homes is about 860. These numbers haven't changed very much. So when I talked about it earlier in the year, it's kind of one in, one out. These numbers don't change too much. That's why I like doing those 1 week numbers of that change of what we see coming into the market and then going out of the market. New construction, we're starting to see that number tick up significantly. We were down about 700 or so about a month or so ago. We're starting to see a lot of builders are putting foundations in the ground and getting that house ready for the spring. So that's why that number's up a little bit. Months of inventory dropped a little bit there. Obviously we saw that went from 600 homes down to about 450 new listings coming live, and our average sold price dropped $1,000. So that's the first time we've seen that drop a little bit. There might be some of that interest rate pressure. We're starting to see, in the overall picture of the marketplace, I'm seeing across my emails and just, working with buyers and such, that seeing some price reductions. We're seeing sellers offer concessions, as far as, maybe paying a buy down on an interest rate or closing costs, helping those buyers out. So it's one of those, you just have options out there. Seeing home inspections getting accepted. It's kind of going back to what I would deem kind of more of a normal market. It's not as crazy, as you're seeing 10 offers on houses. There are some houses out there that are, that are in certain price points that are well maintained, well updated, that are moving, at that pace. But the average home, just nice home out there, is still, with longer days on market and things of that sort that we're seeing, which is very typical for this time of year. So it's nothing that I would, over my 15 years in the business, I don't really get concerned about. It is what it is. There's always people buying, always people selling, and what the market rates is doing. So, and talking about rates, I guess not in that regard. So I guess let's talk to Russ here about what's going on in the mortgage industry and what he's seeing on his side of the coin. And how are we doing, Russ? And a happy birthday to you.
Oh,
So
thank you.
another
Thank
trip
you.
around the sun.
Yeah, I made a lot of them, double nickels now. So
Yeah,
I'm
there you
looking for any discounts I can find for senior citizens menu. So if you have any
go.
tips and suggestions, send them my way.
All right. I actually got one at Hy-Vee one time. They're like, "Oh, it's senior day," and I'm like, "Just because I have gray hair doesn't mean I'm seeing." So it's kind of funny, but
Mark,
anyway.
I would love to have gray hair. I wish I did.
Yeah, right.
No, mortgage rates are actually a little bit better. Last week we talked about the non-farm payroll report that comes out on the first Friday of every month, coming in a little bit below projections, and that was favorable for us. Just yesterday and today, we saw both retail and wholesale inflation, respectively. Those reports came in a little bit softer. Retail sales were a little bit less than they anticipated today. So all those things are playing in the favor of mortgage rates, and we've even seen an adjustment in the Federal Reserve's forecast for when they might start to cut short-term rates. It might even be sometime in the first half of next year. Obviously, we've got a lot of reports between now and then to dig through. But having said that, and we've talked about this before, Mark, every time that rates drop, that brings more people back into the home buying marketplace. And as Mark pointed out, there is some inventory now. You can, in many cases, ask the seller to pay some of your cost for you. You might be able to get home inspections, and you might be able to get the property at or maybe even below the list price in the current market. Not in all cases, but in some cases. If we hit a spring market where interest rates have come down, we may see some of that go away. You may not get help from the seller to pay costs. You may not be able to get that home inspection contingency, and you may not be able to get that home at or below list price. So for those of you that are thinking about buying a home, I encourage you maybe to at least start kicking the tires with Mark and his team now, to make sure you can buy the home at today's price. We can always refinance it next year. And based upon the assumption that home prices will continue to be solid, you may pick up enough appreciation over the next 6 to 12 months to cover any cost of a refinance, but you've been able to secure the home that you want. So having said that, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm a bit of a numbers nerd if you didn't already know it. And Mark and his team would be more than happy to help show you what's available now.
Yeah, and as you talked, I was on the phone yesterday with a new prospective buyer that's maybe looking at in the seed, he'd buy something now or even into the spring. And looking at his criteria, there wasn't any homes right now actively on the market. But it's a great time to have a conversation with somebody like that that's looking in the spring in a more narrow search criteria. So that way it's on my radar. I can talk to our team. I can network with agents that are out there and say, because there's a lot of people like right now that are, hey, we're thinking about selling our house in the spring. Well, you may be able to, best of both worlds, have a buyer that, get a good, a fair price for both parties in that manner. That if that seller wants to maybe jump on a house that they may find at this time to get a good price on that. And so it kind of works out well for everyone involved. So that way we get something on our radar. We can keep track and if they have a specific neighborhood, I can go start knocking on doors. Well, we want to wait till spring. Well, okay, I have a ready, willing, and able buyer now, and okay, well, then you just work and you're kind of playing matchmaker and working the pieces of the puzzle. But rather than waiting till spring with everybody else is, like you said, and if markets, depending on what interest rates do, historically, we always have more activity in the spring, more houses go on the market, more buyers come in the market, whereas now in that November, December, January, February timeframe, it's still a pretty active market. You get a lot of people that we hear, we're thinking of selling a house. We're thinking of buying a house in the spring. Mark, what do we need to do? Well, if we can kind of get, from a buyer's perspective, get in touch with Russ, get a game plan as far as from the financing side. What are the options? What are some benefits or things that are come out? To help home buyers. And then we have you on the radar of like, okay, we know that this person wants, a house up to 300,000. They want a ranch or whatever that criteria is. And we might have somebody and say, well, do you want to put it on the market now? Do you want to wait? Do you want to, we have so it's just up to what's best, ultimately as agents, we have a fiduciary responsibility to do what's in the best interest of our buyers and our sellers, so that's what we do here is, do that for you and just ultimately get, play that matchmaker and try to get the best, what works best for everybody and thing. It's like, hey, if you want to put it on the market, put a sign in the yard, get everyone out there, create as much buyer activity, awesome, let's do it. But if you're like, hey, if I got somebody that I know that wants to buy my house, I don't have to have a contingency to sell, or I have a contract and everything ready to rock and roll, that makes me a stronger buyer. And if I don't have to compete with, more buyers in that springtime with me having a contingency, that may be an advantage to you as a seller. So there's just different things that we talk about. Like we say every week, we always talk about, we harp on having a game plan and getting ready to rock and roll, when you're buying and selling houses. So, so we're happy to help, before the snow flies and all that good stuff. So, but give us a holler. My number's here, 672-7670 or Russ 290-8936. Happy to sit down. We can do a Zoom. We can meet for lunch, all that kind of stuff, whatever works best. Meet at the office. I can show you kind of how we, with the buyer, what to expect, and all that good stuff. So it's a lot of fun stuff that I like to do with my clients and get them ready to rock and roll, with regards to that. So if you want to check out any active listings, championsrealestateteam.com. Obviously, I showed you earlier, you can jump on and check out that home buyers guide. So website here, jump on, you got active search, map search, home valuation, kind of get a rough idea what your house is worth. Ultimately, that's algorithms or, the analytics and that side. So the best way to get your home valuation is give one of us here a holler. We do the spreadsheets, we do everything, comparable homes and all that good stuff. So anyways, happy to help you. And thanks for listening. And give us a holler if you need anything, and we'll